Hi, my name is Joanna Suarez, and I'm going to talk about my film, Red Underline. It's a thriller about 12 to 15 minutes long, and it's set in present day in the Manchester suburbs. The theme of the story starts with revenge and then develops into good versus evil. And to summarize my story, it's about this lady who meets her abuser from the past and she decides to kill him, but then she gets the taste for killing and decides to start killing innocent men, and she gets away with it. So basically, this sweet old lady called Mrs. Everly decides to take in her house this guy, James, who has his car broke in the middle of the night. So she offers him to stay at her house, and then she starts to have flashbacks of her abusing experiences from the past when she was younger, and she then finds out that it's him, the guy that's in her house, it's the abuser, James. So she decides, she has a conflict in her mind whether if she gets revenge on him or not, and she decides to kill him by suffocating him in his sleep. But then after that, she gets rid of the body. We don't see how. And then she carries on with her life like nothing happened. And she then lures men into her house by going into the yellow pages and, for example, calling an electrician. And once they go up to her house, she kills them and crosses their names with a red pen. That's why it's called Red Underline. And in the end, she gets away with it, even though police officers go up to her house. She gets away with it. And in the end, you see the final scene. She's making a cup of tea. She goes out to her backyard. She sits on her rocking chair, and you can see all the shallow graves of the men she killed, and she's there smiling and drinking a cup of tea. So this is a look I'm going for the film. A very well decorated house, and the lighting will be very low key because it's a thriller. Yeah, that's it. So there's a lot of locations, but all of them are pretty much in the same house. So I'll have two main challenges in this production. One of them being the graphic scenes, because I want the film to have the abusing experience of Mrs. Everly, and the scene where she kills James, but I don't want it to be too graphic, so I think that's going to be a challenge to balance it. And then the other challenge will be the representation of women who were abused, because I don't want my film to picture them as murderers, even though some abused women can be triggered by her abusers to have psychotic episodes. It's not a general thing, and not all abused women murder their abusers. And again, this is just a fictional film, so and it's a very topical film because it's about abusing women, and that's a very sensitive topic, and I think it's very important to bring attention to it, and it happens all the time. And in the film, you can see how that can impact a life of a person. And also I think that my film is different from the others because it's not just about revenge. It's about revenge, but then you kind of think, oh my god, you kind of think, you
question whether.
Yeah, you question. Yeah, it starts off by being just about revenge, but then you question yourself: is this a good woman who did something bad, or is she really a bad person that just wants to kill men? Any questions?
What makes her realise that he's the one who abused her?
So she starts to have flashbacks the moment she sees him, and the flashback starts by being her she remembers being abused, but she doesn't remember her face, and this happened 20 years ago, so they both changed. But she was triggered, and that's the real thing. I don't know what else. She was triggered by his presence, and then as the flashbacks continues, she starts to see more and more of this person, and on the last flashback she sees his face, and she's like, oh, it's him.
Okay.
And the same thing happens with him. He doesn't have flashbacks, but he sees pictures of her around the house, of her young self, and he's like, alright, she looks familiar.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a question. Before she meets James, is there anything in her character or behavior before she meets her abuser that, like, was she a happy person, or was she like a sad person, or like some kind of darkness there, like?
You don't really see her life. Before before that meeting with James. No, but she and James have a conversation about her husband and how he died a few years ago. She's a happy person, but she's a widow, and she's been living alone for a couple of years, more than a couple of years, for a lot of years, and they talk about her son. Her son's already has a family. She's a happy person, but she's lonely. That's why she said to James, you can stay in my house.
Okay.
She would never thought that would happen, but she just wanted some company, and he needed a place to stay.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Talking about character profiles in a sense, do you think your character, Miss Eveline, is it? Sorry. Eveline.
It's the last name, Mrs. Eveline.
Mrs. Eveline. Okay. When she murders, is she going for a certain type of male, or is it any kind of male? Is there a particular look that she's going for? Like, does that add to her character and her, her
because
triggered?
James looks like he's a middle-aged man, and he looks pretty standard, and like all the men that she calls are middle-aged, like an electrician or someone to fix the TV. They're all very unremarkable, like very. There's not something that stands out. They're just like middle-aged men. Okay. And I was thinking about that actually, and maybe they could have they could say something that would trigger her about women, but yeah, that's a good thing maybe to think about. Yeah, have them saying something that would trigger her.
What makes the police come to a house?
So, because James was driving that night and the car broke down, The car was parked a little away from Mrs. Everly's house, and of course James disappeared, and the police found his car, and the house that was closer to James' car was Mrs. Everly. That's why the police went to her house to ask questions about, have you seen this man? His car was just found just there, and she goes like, no. And she knows the police because it's a small town, and that's why she gets away with it.
Okay. So, I'm guessing there's a lot of moments where Mrs. Emily will be on her own.
Yeah.
How are you going to tackle the fact that she'll be with the fact that the dialogue of what she's thinking in her mind?
Yeah, in the beginning there's a lot of dialogue, but once she kills James, it's just her, and it's about, I want it to be, there's no dialogue of course because I want people to see that she's lonely, and it's about her actions, how she carries on with her normal daily tasks even though she killed a lot of men. And it's about, she doesn't really have an internal dialogue, and that's all because it helps with the ending, whether is she a good person or a bad person, because she never debates that with herself, if that makes sense. She never asks herself, have I done this right or not? She just carries on with her life.